All right, so if you're just joining us, go ahead and put in your name, favorite food. I don't know, Amy, are you thinking sushi?
To make?
Oh,
I
well,
like,
to eat.
I suppose. I think beef. I like short ribs. I'm like a
Mm,
Mm.
land animal eater.
okay. Yeah. All right. Got Lois sushi. Awesome. First time mom. 6 weeks. Oh, congratulations, Kate.
Thank
Anything
you.
Italian? Yeah. Not a huge fan of cooking. I don't blame you. Oh, I'm so glad I married my husband because he is a really decent cook, and that is just not a skill I was ever able to. I could do like grilled cheese. I can make a mean grilled cheese, a
Mm.
mean macaroni and cheese, quesadilla, like those frying pan kind of meals. But yeah, anything that has to do with baking and measuring and mixing, I start to get. I don't blame you. Megan, what's your favorite food? We can do that you don't have to cook. Let's see her pop it in there. All right, well, we'll go ahead and get started. So for those that don't know me, my name is Selena Pemberton, and I am a local maternal health occupational therapist. And I have been in this realm of working with prenatal and postpartum moms to be, new moms, seasoned moms, and just kind of figuring out this whole thing called motherhood. And as we transition into motherhood, we experience all of these emotions and ups and downs, and some things that are within our control, some things that aren't. And so I just found it was really a topic that continued to come up with a lot of women that I've worked with is about postpartum depression and even just about baby blues. So I feel that for all of us here that have kiddos, we've probably experienced those baby blues before. But some of us may have also experienced or could be eventually experiencing some postpartum depression. And Gabrielle is here with me to share her information from a therapist perspective. But the more you know, the sooner you know, the more you can do to support yourself, which then ultimately can lead into the rest of your family, your relationship with your baby, your relationship with your partners, your family. And so I'm just glad that you all decided to come and join us today and learn more about how you can empower your own mental health. But before we go ahead and get started, I do want to take just a quick mindful moment. So, if it's safe for you, if you can just go ahead and sit back, relax your back against something, and if you're comfortable with it, gently close your eyes or just bring your gaze downward. You're welcome to turn your camera off or leave it on, whatever you'd like. And I just want to take an opportunity to just tune into our breath, noticing how our breath feels. Maybe you've had a busy day today. And so I just want you to take a moment. This might be the first time you've actually noticed your breath today. The air coming in through your nose as you inhale, and your chest slowly sinking down as you exhale. I want you to now bring awareness to the bottoms of your feet, just noticing how your feet feel in this moment. Noticing if they're on any surfaces, if they're cozied up with socks or slippers, or if you're barefoot, just noticing how they feel. And I invite you to bring your attention now to your knees and to your hips. Just notice if you're holding on to anything there. Continuing to allow your breath to go in a natural rhythm and just being mindful of your knees and your hips here. And then bringing awareness to your spine, to your belly, to your chest, and just noticing if you're holding on to any tension here. Can you breathe a little deeper? Can you find more length in your spine? And then bringing awareness to your shoulders, just allowing your shoulders to sink down. Where are you holding on to? Allowing your arms to get a little heavier and enjoying that natural curl of your fingers as you will let them relax. And finally, bringing awareness to the muscles of your face. And I just invite you to find even 10% more relaxation here. How can you lighten those muscles? Allowing your body to feel a full relaxation from your head to your toes. Being open to receive information today that we're going to learn. Enjoying the sense of community together. And allowing ourselves to be advocates for mental health, especially as fellow women, and for the women that have come before us and for the women that are going to come after us, that we can all support each other through these mindful moments into supporting our mental, physical, and spiritual health. Okay. Wonderful. Thank you for joining me in that. You can go ahead and open your eyes. Just let me know how you feel. How do you feel after that little mindful moment? Anything come up for you? Did you notice anywhere where you were a little bit more tense?
I definitely noticed like I'm a jaw clencher, and
Mm.
so that was a very good reminder of like, okay, relax. The 10% was a good nudge.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, well, feel free to share in that if you would like. So we'll go ahead into the presentation here. So this is all on Beyond Baby Blues and talking about postpartum depression. And we talk a little bit of about anxiety here as well, but definitely more of the depression here for today. And Kate said, I realized I didn't really stop to just breathe all day. That was a good reminder. Yeah, yeah, awesome. We'll talk a little bit more about breath a little bit later. I'm also excited to join here with Gabrielle. So if you go ahead, Gabrielle, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, yeah. So, Gabrielle Pfeffer, I am a licensed clinical social worker. I work here in Fort Myers, as an individual and couples therapist. My main focus is on people who are in that perinatal journey. A lot of my clients are experiencing either postpartum anxiety, depression, rage. Sometimes a lot of my clients have experienced some sort of pregnancy loss. The other thing I do a lot of is couples therapy. Um, Oftentimes, we're still dealing with parenting in there too. And so I have been in private practice since 2019 here in the community, and I love it. I'm super excited to be here tonight and talk more about this stuff. Also, I'm a mom. I have two toddlers at home. I have a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old right out there, hopefully staying asleep. Yeah, my family's here in the community. I put in here, let's see, I'm a sun seeker. I'm like obsessed with going to the beach and being outside if I can. Entrepreneur, that's how I met Selena. We're talking about, hey, how do we help more people and do stuff together to help moms? And so I'm excited to be here today.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your willingness to work with me on this. As an occupational therapist, have one side of things, and we all bring different perspectives to the table. And so it's just wonderful. It truly takes a village in all aspects of motherhood, for
Agreed,
sure.
agreed.
All right, so let's go ahead and jump into some of the information we're going to talk about today. So for some of us, we have experienced some form of baby blues, some form of sadness, just maybe feeling a sense of distance after having a baby. And it doesn't always necessarily happen immediately after having the baby. It can happen throughout your postpartum period. And typically the postpartum period is really about a year after having a baby. So, some women experience it closer to when they're going back to work or jumping back into certain routines. And so those baby blues really can come and go at any time. They usually last about 10 to 12 days at the most, but most of the time they should resolve on their own. So when we start to see that sadness, that hopelessness, that distance, that numbness, if you will, for longer than about 2 weeks, that's when we start to consider that it could be more of a postpartum depression, more of that clinical postpartum depression. And so typically with this population, we tend to see deeper negative thoughts, right? So that isn't just I'm having a sad day or I'm feeling sad right now. It's much deeper and negative thoughts can lead to suicidal ideations. And so that can be quite frightening for a mom to experience that. You're supposed to be um, having the time of your life, right? This is probably something you've worked for years and have imagined for years. And to have that sense of, well, what would it happen if I wasn't here anymore? That can be really scary for moms and it can definitely spiral. And so that's definitely something that you want to talk to a clinical therapist on. And then postpartum depression can also come with something called psychosis, which is hallucinations, delusions, and even paranoia. Hallucinations tend to be a sensory experience that's not reality. So, for somebody that might see something or hear something or feel something, it's related to our sensory input, whereas delusions and paranoia tend to be thoughts, uh, ideas that someone might be after me, someone might be after my kids, something bad is going to happen at any moment. And so we tend to see that part of the anxiety aspects of the postpartum depression there as well. So, some common symptoms of postpartum depression and anxiety, we tend to see inability to sleep. So, even when the baby is sleeping, the mom might have difficulty getting to sleep or just finding a nice, restful sleep. Low appetite. As you know, it is very important to have a great appetite after you've had a baby, especially if you're breastfeeding. So, this can really cause some difficulties with that. Little to no connection with the baby, right? The baby's crying, the baby is needing something. And so you're in this moment where you're not having that connection. And that can even carry on to partner, family, other siblings, other kiddos that you might have. And then again, we talked about those hallucinations and delusions. The anxiety aspect of it can be all of that as well, but also include hyper awareness and restlessness. So that, I don't want to go into a lot of examples, but it can be very scary to have the anxiety because you're constantly in fear of something is going to happen, right? You might hear this expression of people that have depression kind of live in the past and live in things that they regret and resent, whereas people with anxiety have more of those thoughts and fears of the future. And so when you think about motherhood, there's lots of past and future conversations and thoughts, and they tend to be more severe with the postpartum depression and anxiety. So some of you might be asking, why the heck is this happening, right? Why does this extreme emotion happen? And so when you actually look at the science of the chemical changes that are happening in your body when you're pregnant, it honestly makes sense why someone would be experiencing the emotions that they are experiencing. Just like you would experience pelvic pain, just like you would experience maybe blood pressure changes, you're also having chemical imbalances that are occurring in your brain and in your hormones. And so these shifts and changes can make a huge impact on your mental health. And like I said, just like with any other condition you may experience post-baby, this is a medical condition, right? This should be treated just as if, you have blood pressure. You might have medications to help manage your blood pressure. There's treatment, there's options for someone who is experiencing that postpartum depression. It is your body's rebound response to growing a human, right? Gabrielle, do you want to add anything to that?
Um, yeah, I think that a lot of the moms that come to see me come with like a lot of guilt, right? Feeling like I should be really enjoying this. I should be so happy. Like I'm so lucky. Why am I feeling this way? The guilt, moms are really good at guilting themselves in general, but especially when we're um postpartum and having lack of sleep and having the hormone drop and stuff. I think the guilt, if you're not in this bliss that I think that maybe is portrayed on social media or whatever, that some people a lot of people come with this heaviness of like, why am I feeling this way and what is wrong with me? And
Mm,
so I love the fact that we're having more conversations about this stuff and normalizing the experience because unfortunately it is really common. And the best antidote, which I know we're going to get into soon, is reducing the stigma and reducing the isolation that's associated. So when you can ask for help and not no longer feel like you're the only one, things change pretty quick.
absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. And at any time, if any of you have questions, feel free to just put them in the chat and we can answer them as we go. We will have some time at the end to go over any questions. So this exactly what you said, Gabrielle, about the stigma and the conversations that we kind of hush hush, how we're mentally feeling after a baby. There's a lot of myths that go into postpartum depression. And, again, we can understand and respect the physical changes that are happening within us, but we so often don't bring up the emotional things that are happening within us. And so I found these pretty interesting, and I think that all of us can be guilty on maybe feeling a little bit of these myths. And so I just want to kind of go through and break those myths up and actually provide you with some of the facts. So postpartum depression only happens right after birth. So the fact is that postpartum depression can happen anywhere from up to a year after having a baby. So it doesn't necessarily have to happen right away. So for those of you that are just in the beginning stages of your postpartum journey, it's still important to know the signs and be aware of what's going on with yourself mentally so that you can step into some of the tools that we're going to talk about today. Some moms feel fine at first and they think everything is going really well, and then they may experience symptoms later on. Myth number two, only weak moms experience postpartum. That is so awful. No mom, to be honest with you, is weak. I mean, if you've had a
True.
baby, you are not weak. I remember it's kind of off topic, but I remember when I had my first baby and I walked in public for the first time with my daughter, and I literally, those commercials that you're like, hey, yeah, awesome. Oh, cool. Oh, total respect. I was like nodding with moms because I was like, how, excuse my language, badass are we? Like, I
Yeah.
literally did that. How amazing is that, right? And it was weird and awkward and bumpy, but we did it. So I had a completely different respect. And so that is exactly the opposite of moms is weak. So and from especially from a mental health perspective, no mental health perspective is a sign of weakness. A lot of it, just like other medical conditions, can occur and they can be treated. But we have to, again, be able to have those conversations and let go of that. What are people going to think about me if I come up with depression, right? Oh, I'm just being dramatic. Oh, I'm just going through a phase. It's so much more than that. And then myth number three, if I admit I'm struggling, they'll think I'm a bad mom. And again, of course, None of us are bad moms. And so we really need to be mindful of that stigma. Seeking help is probably one of the bravest things that you can do because it doesn't only help you, it also helps your whole generation, your whole family tree, everything. It's saving you and your family. So when should you ask for support? So I do often get this question with some of my clients where they're like, "Well, I'm having sad days, but when do I actually need to talk to somebody?" Because it's normal, right? We've all experienced sad days. We've all experienced highs and lows. But I wanted to just kind of show you this scale that it's okay to have some sad days and it's okay to only have some happy days. But at this point, if you're experiencing that you're in like that green or yellow zone, it doesn't hurt to still connect and talk to someone about how you're experiencing because you just never know if what you're experiencing can unfortunately transition into a full medical condition of postpartum depression. And so you can always be proactive in those stages. Other ways, again, we'll talk about these tools shortly, but other ways are, getting outside, having a community, having your village, making sure that you're drinking plenty of water and eating plenty of nutritious food, and, avoiding those isolation times. I also find that women are very good at being busy, right? We're very good at filling our time with things that, right, of looking busy. It's when we start to rest or when we start to slow down that that's when a lot of the signs and symptoms can show up, right? So you can be perfectly fine at work, perfectly fine during the day, but it's when you're starting to calm down at night or when you're starting to sit down after a long day of work. That's when things or certain emotions or behaviors can start to come up. So when we find quiet, we can tend to see more of these symptoms. And that's when you know you need to talk to somebody about it. So I have the pink and the red. Those are definitely areas where you're going to want to seek attention. You're going to want to seek professional help. Um, and so, I have Gabrielle on here as a professional help. So if any of you feel like you are in that area, you definitely want to speak to someone today. Feel free to email us. We'll have our contact information here at the end of this slideshow. But you have to. You have to do it for you and your family. And there are resources out there for you, but we can't force you, right? You have to make that first move to ask for help. And there are also resources in the community like Park Royal and other types of facilities that can help you immediately. So at any time someone is experiencing what we call like a crisis or those really deep depression, really deep anxiety, that's definitely a sign that you want to seek that medical attention sooner than later.
Yeah, just to add to, I think that I get this question oftentimes too, like, well, like when is it appropriate to maybe go to therapy or whatever? So just ha start having these conversations with your support system. And I think that if you're asking the question, it's like
Mhm.
it's time, right? Um, the hardest part about postpartum is that it's really isolating, right? You are typically in our society, we're alone with a little baby a lot of hours during the day and we're sleep deprived and we're doing something we've never done before. Or maybe we're not a first time mom, but we still have this new human that we're taking care of that we've never taken care of before. And so, anyways, I think that if we're having the question of is it time, is it appropriate, then yes, it is. Like, why not? Why not get the support? If you can get the support, right? Why not add to your repertoire? We're so good as moms at like we're going to buy all the best baby products. We're going to get all the things that our babies and our kids needs and make sure our home is ready for our babies. But like we are always the last thing that we prioritize. So if this is one thing we can do, just get that little bit of extra support in our lives. I think that it's the best thing we could do. The biggest gift to ourselves and the biggest gift to our babies. Because if we're good, then our kid's going to be good.
Exactly. And that bond is so important in the beginning of their life and their development. And, it's worth it all around
Yeah.
to to seek the services, even if, like you said, even if you're questioning it, that's probably a good sign that you need to speak with someone. Okay, so you don't have to wait until you're at rock bottom to ask for help. Okay, so please don't wait for that moment when you're really, really struggling. So some signs that some of us, have experience with postpartum depression is feeling overwhelmed or hopelessness, crying more often than usual, intense anxiety, racing thoughts, even experiencing some panic attacks, feeling that disconnection, trouble sleeping, and then even some irritability and anger. Sometimes depression doesn't always look sad or alone or isolated. Sometimes it can look like irritability, anger. When you think about all of these emotions that we have as a brand new mom, they always have an origin to the behavior, right? There's always an origin to an outburst that I may experience or a crying that I may experience. And it's often a need that we're not getting met, right? And so we have to look back and talk to people that we trust to be able to kind of go through what are some of those needs. Do we feel like we're not being heard? Do we feel like, I'm hungry, but my body, like I'm just so busy that I'm not focusing on myself and my hunger and my needs. I know for me personally, when I felt like my needs weren't met, it was very easy to outlash and be upset at other people. Um, but it takes somebody going, hey, let's talk about, some of the things that you're feeling are missing in your recovery process. I remember hiding behind a mask that everyone was okay. Everything was okay when I was not. Thank you for, yeah, yeah, absolutely. I hate that crazy word. I hate that. I feel like we utilize crazy all the time. But that's just part of the stigma, right? We associate crazy with negative and crazy with wild. And, we're all big, big balls of energy. And sometimes our energy is not positive and sometimes our energy is not in a good place, and so it's really important to be able to be aware of your needs and where you're at, and know that you have the opportunity to make things better. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing. So the key takeaway, if you take away anything from this presentation, it's the sooner that you recognize the signs, the sooner you get support. Postpartum mental health is treatable, absolutely 100% treatable with the right tools and the help. Okay. So you're not alone. This is more common than we think. And there are tools that we can work on to be able to help you through this process. So I wanted to, as an occupational therapist, I wanted to share a little bit of some of the holistic options that someone might have with postpartum depression. I know for some of you, if you have talked to somebody like your doctor about postpartum depression, they may have immediately prescribed medications. And we know with medications, there can be a lot of side effects and a lot of things that come along, right, with those medications. So it's not just addressing the depression, but it's also causing um, quality of life concerns with our relationships and other side effects that are not fun with any type of medication. So I wanted you all to be aware that there are some amazing holistic options out there. And so I'm actually going to share 6 with you now, and I would love to actually practice a few of these. So we'll quickly practice a few, and then that way you have some tools to be able to help you through a really tough time or when you're starting to feel any symptoms of depression, and being able to help you manage it right in that moment. So, breath work is really big. When we talk about our breath, that is actually the number one way to stop your fight or flight system. So, when someone is in fight or flight, right, we see a lot of anxiety, we see a lot of fear, we see a lot of irritability, frustration. And so, a lot of that can happen as a new mom, right? Our baby's not latching. we're sleep deprived. All I want to do is sleep for more than 2 hours. I'm hungry, but I'm too tired to get up to eat anything. I want to be able to get back and visit with my friends, but I don't see that happening anytime soon, right? There's all of these spirals, if you will, that start to come up. And so the number one way for you to stop that fight or flight system and kick in that relaxation system is by your breath. And the trick is with your breath is to be able to extend your exhale longer than your inhale. So you'll see that there's a 4-6-8 breath here. It does take some practice to get that length of your breath, but the 4 would be an inhale. So you would inhale for a count of 4. You hold at the top for a count of 6. This actually confuses your central nervous system and tells you, oh, okay, we're good. We're going to go ahead and relax here. And then as you exhale for a count of 8, you're slowly exhaling. And not only does that kick in that calming, but it brings your heart rate down. It relaxes your muscles. It is a somatic experience that happens because you override your breath, right? So this has been something that I have practiced for the last few years, and it has been a game changer in my mental health. So if you all are willing to, let's go ahead and practice it together. So again, we're going to inhale for a count of 4, hold at the top for 6, and exhale for a count of 6. Or I'm sorry, exhale for a count of 8. So whenever you're ready, big breath, inhale for 4, 3, 2, 1. We're going to hold 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and exhale for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale for 4, big inhale. Hold for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Slowly through the mouth, exhale, 8, 7, 6. Relax the shoulders. 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. So you can do that anytime, right? You can do that while you're driving. You can do that while you're at work. You can do that while you're breastfeeding your baby. You immediately kick in that what we call the parasympathetic nervous system that starts to calm you down so you can think clearer, you can make better decisions for yourself, and you can just be in that present moment. So that's a great breath work pattern. The other one is box breathing. And so basically you simulate your breath as you're making the shape of a square. So you would inhale. We usually do about an inhale of count of 4, hold at the top for a count of 4, exhale for 4, hold at the bottom for 4. Okay, so we can go ahead and try that here. So we're going to inhale for 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold at the top for 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. And hold at the bottom for 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. And that actually, if you trace a square on your thigh or on your arm, you actually get a little bit more of a sensory input and calming presence with that as well. And then the other option is the mindfulness of your breath. So noticing your chest rising and falling as you breathe, noticing your shoulders sink as you exhale, noticing the temperature of the air as it comes in through your nose. And there's so many things that, we breathe all day, every day, and we don't even really think about it half the time. But that is the key to reframing and resetting your body so that you can just let go, be settled in the moment, and be able to make that next step with a clearer mind. So breath work is really, really important. If anybody has any other questions or anything about that, let me know. That is definitely a big part of what I do in a lot of my practices. I also have mindfulness on here. That is basically being in the present moment. As I said earlier, we often live in the past or we live in the future. We very rarely live right now, right? So imagining your bottom on the chair or the couch beneath you, right? How does that feel? How does your feet feel on the ground? How does the air feel on your skin? And so there is a process called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, where you use all of your senses, all of your five senses. So, for example, I would choose 5 things that I can see, 4 things that I can hear, 3 things that I can feel, 2 things that I can smell, and 1 thing that I can taste. Okay. And depending on what environment you're in, you might be able to do that very quickly. And other environments, it might take some time to notice what you feel on your skin. And so that's a really great mindfulness technique, engaging your senses. If you are a aromatherapy person, put that in your environment. If you like certain colors, put that more in your area. If you like certain textures, go buy yourself that shirt. Go buy yourself those really comfortable, smooth pants, right? We tend to find joy in those little sensations that really bring a positive experience to our day. And then we have talk therapy. So I'm going to let Gabrielle talk a little bit about talk therapy and how that can be an option for you.
Yeah. So for someone who's coming in for talk therapy, um, in their postpartum period, I think that the cool part about the benefits of this is you're really taking this 1 hour typically of your week, and dedicating it just to you, right? We get to chat through, okay, how have you been feeling this week? What's been going on? How much sleep are you getting? Are you taking a moment to be mindful? Are you getting yourself grounded? Are we practicing breathing? Are we eating? Are we drinking water, right? Are we doing these basic things? Did you take a shower today? All these little things that are really easy to ignore. And most of the time, when people are checking in on you, when you're postpartum, they're checking in about like, hey, how is the baby doing? And of course, we're gonna do a little bit of that too, right? But mostly, right, our job is to focus on, hey, how can we do your wellness? How can I be the person or your therapist be the person in your world who is your biggest advocate? And so we're gonna talk about the scary thoughts that you might have, right? The things that you feel really guilty about, these things that you're really confused about. What are your fears? How can I join you, or how can your therapist join you in this scary experience, right, of postpartum depression or anxiety and make it feel a little bit less scary and a little bit more tangible? Because, like Selena said, there's a reason for everything that goes on, right? There's an explanation. And then when we get that information, we understand the science behind what's going on. We understand how we got here. We can figure out how to get out of that place. And so I think that it can be hopefully one of the most empowering experiences you can have, right? Someone reminding you that although, right, we have this little tiny person who all of their needs depend on us. Um, Part of their needs is for us to take care of ours, right? And you're going to situate your life in a way that is allowing you to do so, right? So I think that talk therapy can be super powerful in giving you an advocate for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. That was beautiful.
Yeah.
A few other options here. These are a little bit more involved with other people and getting out of the house. So, finding your village, find those local and virtual groups on Facebook. Sometimes they can be a little out of hand, so just be mindful of some of the Facebook groups you get into. You want a positive, right? You want a positive experience. And so it can sometimes be easy to get, again, spiraled into some of the other struggles that other moms are going through. Look up mom gatherings locally in your area, whether it be a Bible study, whether it be, just a community of girls that get together for play dates, or talk to some of your, if you have kids in school, talk to some of the other moms at birthday parties, and, just really have those open opportunities to connect with other women and find, that sense of village, if you will. Connect with nature. Nature's huge. Just like Gabrielle talked a little bit earlier, getting grounded, actually putting your feet in the dirt, actually feeling the grass, touching a tree. There is so much energy that is within our world, and I don't have enough time to talk all about it. I would love to, but there's so much energy that's happening all around us. And when we have that separation of my energy and the energy of the universe and of nature, we tend to feel that depression. We feel that resistance. We feel unease and finding that difficulty in the flow. But when we connect with nature, we find that ease and flow. We realize how much we have in common with nature, with the phases of the moon and with the seasons and all of those things. And just like we have all of those phases within us. And so it's really a wonderful experience to be able to connect and become grounded with nature. And then, of course, call a friend, right? It's maybe someone you haven't talked to in a while, maybe a fellow mom that, you've been in touch, but we never really talk about how we feel. We talk about everything else, but we don't ever talk about how we feel. So really being able to initiate those conversations when you have the opportunity. I found this really cool, where we often say things to ourselves and we have to reframe them to notice a difference and how we show up. I know when I was a brand new mom, I kept saying, this is so hard. There's no manual for this. I'm tired, I'm exhausted, I'm not sure how I'm going to get through today. All of those things set you up into a failure, of a failed sense of purpose. And so when we can reframe that, we find that we approach it differently. And there's actually a few things that I learned even from my mother-in-law, from my cousins that are moms. I learned some other phrases that they would say, and it kind of made me giggle when I would hear it, but it really did make a big difference in my experience of being a mom. So for example, my mother-in-law would always go, I'm new at this. I'm new at this. Be patient with me. I'm figuring it out. We'll figure it out together. And I remember thinking, yeah, that's true. I am new at this and I am figuring this out and we will figure this out together. But it was just a kinder way to say, ooh, this is really hard and I'm struggling.
Love that.
Very different experience. And so, I just encourage you to be tuned into what other moms are saying. And it may be something that kind of sticks with you and you go, oh, you know what? That is a really great way to handle that situation. I'll never be able to do this. I'm doing the best that I can right now. And think about all the things you've accomplished. I mean, giving birth is no that in itself is amazing. And so give yourself some gosh darn credit and make sure that you're kind to yourself because your thoughts are everything. And so there's a ton of different resources online of different phrases. Another thing and this is just kind of woman to women, stop apologizing. Stop apologizing for what you do or how you show up or something you said or the way you're parenting, any of that. When you say you're sorry, you actually put yourself in the victim situation, right? But when you say, thank you for being patient with me, or, I appreciate that you're listening to me, instead of saying, oh, I'm so sorry that I'm bothering you, or I'm so sorry that I'm taking up all your time, it completely reframes the situation and it reframes that relationship of, wow, they're thanking me for something that, it's a that I found was something very powerful as a new mom is to stop apologizing, but reframe it in a way that gives appreciation for being with that person and showing up. Okay, so that really concludes the information that we wanted to share. Does anybody have any questions? This is an opportunity for you to kind of get in the hot seat and hop on with Gabrielle and I and ask any questions that you might have.
Hey there. Great job, ladies. It's Carolyn.
How are you?
I'm doing good. Oh, here's over here. No, everything's good. But I had a question. So I think the toughest thing is like for me, if I see other moms that are showing signs, how do we gently, I don't know, provide resources instead of being like, hey, you need to see a therapist. Like what are some strategies that you guys can recommend where it's like a gentle, um, nudge to maybe look into something like that?
You want to take that one, Gabrielle?
Sure, yeah. I think it probably depends on your relationship with the people that you're noticing it in. I think that some of the most powerful thing that we can do for someone else who is struggling is acknowledge the fact that we see them, right? And so I think that oftentimes, right, when oftentimes people don't share about how they're feeling because when they do, the reaction is like, oh, like people are dismissive. So I think that this idea that, hey, I don't want to dismiss someone who is struggling and I want to acknowledge the fact that they're having a hard time. I think that's super powerful and really kind. Um, and I think the best way to do that is just like really from a strengths-based supportive angle, like, hey, this stuff is so hard, right? And like we have been there, right? We have been through it. And so like this stuff is so hard and it seems like, right? Like the oftentimes the cards are stacked against us, right? So I think it's like acknowledging those things. Hey, like your baby's not sleeping. You just went through the biggest hormone drop of your life. You're struggling, you're sad, you're all of these things. Like, hey, how can I help? How can I support you? Also, do you want some names of some people that I know that can be really helpful? And then maybe it's like giving Selena's name, giving my name, giving someone else in the community's name that you know. But I think that attacking it from a place of like, hey, acknowledging the fact that this is hard and there's nothing wrong with that, and then offering support in a couple of different ways can be helpful. Has anyone been offered help and it gone well? Like in this chat, has that happened to you? And did you have a good experience? I'm curious. I hope no response doesn't mean that they all went bad. It's hard.
To piggyback on what you asked, Carolyn, just as if we can give some time for people that may want to post in the comments. Um, I think it kind of comes back down to that stigma, right? And you have to ask yourself, what would happen if I didn't bring up this conversation? Which option is best going to serve, you know, your friend? Um, And it's okay sometimes I think again, it depends on the relationship, like Gabrielle said, whether you be direct or you kind of smooth in the process. Because if somebody's already experiencing depression and already experiencing certain things, you have to kind of tread lightly because it could go in the opposite direction that we want it to go. And so therefore you continuously bring it up, you continuously, hey, there are some resources out there. This is normal. This is unfortunately common. And I think just kind of reducing that stigma and then being able to kind of transition into those opportunities. And, some of us are stubborn, right? We're gonna ask when it's when we feel like we're ready to ask, and just like we'll lose weight when we're ready to lose weight, we'll make certain choices in our lifestyle different when we're ready. So it's but I do think that if there is concerns of their health and safety, that's when you probably need to be more direct and providing them the resources.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
That's
you're
helpful.
welcome. It's good to see your beautiful face. Anybody else have any questions or anything that they want to share from either experience or some things that they've learned? All right, so here is our information. Feel free to jot down our phone numbers, our emails, our websites, just available here to offer support, even if it's something that we can't necessarily help with. I guarantee you we have resources in the community to find someone who can, from physical health, mental health, spiritual health, all of the above. Being a mom is hard and it doesn't get easier. We know that there are many ups and downs through motherhood. And so when you have support and you have a team behind you, even if it's one session, right? Even if it's just a conversation over the phone with someone, it can really make a huge impact on your quality of life and allow you to enjoy the journey that you're on instead of struggling through it. So we do have a question here. I have a 16-month-old, but I'm also 6 months pregnant. Congratulations. Is there perinatal depression from hormones? Absolutely. Absolutely. That is actually, so depression in itself is a chemical imbalance in your brain. So there can be different theories and strategies to help rebalance those chemicals and those neurotransmitters. I'm not going to get fancy into all the brain chemistry, but hormones have a huge impact on the way your brain thinks and the way your brain shows up. And so, especially when we see these changes in estrogen and all of these serotonin, all of these things, it can absolutely cause the actual act of depression and the symptoms of depression. Um, so that's why medication tends to be a good option for a lot of people, depending on how long they've been experiencing the depression. However, there's also so many other tools that we talked about today that can help with managing that depression, right? Taking a medication is not going to manage your depression. It can help rebalance some of those chemicals, but you have to have that talk therapy with a professional. You have to be able to have the breathing skills and those moments of going, time out, I'm a yellow, mommy needs a break, right? Being able to notice those moments before you get to a point where you're out of control or you're unable to manage what the situation, learning those specific tools in addition to the medication. So hopefully that answers your question, Megan. Yeah, breath work is wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Again, that could probably do a whole topic. I would love to maybe do a webinar on breath work. But it's amazing how we forget how powerful our breath can be, whether we're utilizing it for good or not. I know for years I would hold my breath and wouldn't realize it. And all of a sudden I'd go, and my husband would always go, "Oh, what's wrong? What's wrong? What did I do?" And I'm like, "Oh no, I just was drowning and suffocating myself. I wasn't actually breathing." And so I don't do that anymore because I've been able to learn some of those tools and catching it before it gets out of control. Great, thank you. Well, again, here's our information. I don't want to hold you up any longer. I know it's late and we all have things we need to do. And I just want to say thank you so much for coming live, for showing up for yourself, for showing up for your family, for showing up for other women in this community. And our information is here. If you ever have questions or want to chat about certain things that are going on, or if you know someone who really would benefit from some services, please let us know. We're always here to help. And like I said, we can refer to someone if we are not able to help. So, Gabrielle, do you want to say anything before we close?
No, I'm really excited. Thank you to everyone who showed up. I think that the fact that you're here shows that you're investing in yourself already, and that's a really incredible thing to do. And yeah, we're here for any questions. You have our both of our email addresses and phone numbers, and you can text or call or whatever. But yeah, if any of this struck a chord or if you have more questions, take a bet on yourself and invest a little bit further. We'd love to be along for the journey.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and I will be sure to send out this recording as soon as we're done here. Thank you all so much. Be kind
Thanks.
to yourself.
Bye.